Hello everyone. Today we start another very concept of module 3. That is construction industry health and safety. Generally we call it as HSE. H stands for health, S stands for safety, and E stands for environment. So safety in construction is a prime requisition, but is often gets neglected on work sites. With the advancement in construction technology, the need for proper attention to safety aspects has become essential for humans, economic, and other considerations. The wide range of construction and building activities involving complex techniques have led to many new problems of safety. Proper steps should be taken to improve safety on construction sites. Promotion of safety measures at site will result in a better work environment and higher productivity. Health, safety and environment, that is HSC, are concerned with protecting the welfare of the workers in their respective workplace. Safety is very vital in construction industry because it is a high hazard industry that consists of residential construction, alterations, repairing, bridge erection, roadway paving, excavation, demolition, waterproofing, large scale painting, dismantling and fitting out. So health, safety and environment should also be very important in construction industry. The main force behind any construction site is the manpower, as usual. Without safety, the risks and hazards at very dangerous place like this can get people injured, hurt, or even killed. This can cause any construction site delays, extra expenditures, and loss of manpower. Health and safety is one of the tools that they have in making sure that a company achieves success. They cannot get a good outcome if their employees are getting sick and hurt all the times. So protection against health and safety is the prime right of laborers. Most of the accidents in the construction industry happen due to lack of proper education and training in regard to safety measures, and also because of negligence and ignorance on the part of either the worker or the management or both. Individual efforts and group cooperation are necessary to achieve the safety. It can be achieved only by alert, informations, skillful people who respects themselves and have a regret for welfare of the others. So what are the objectives of safety management? To help increase in speed in construction, to increase the standard of living, to reduce the cost of construction, to conserve the available labor force by minimizing idle time, to reduce human suffering. So, what's actually safety in planning and design? Why it is important? Plan the works to meet the complete requirements. Design the structure considering all the loads and to meet the global requirements or codal requirements and procedure and use standard materials. So health and safety issues for construction workers. Which are all the different health and safety issues generally the workers will get in the construction site? First one is pain or injury from overexertion and repetitive manual tasks or working in uncooperative postures, exposure to molds, fungi or rodent droppings, exposure to paints, lead, wood dust and toxic chemical solutions, working in extreme conditions like high temperatures and chemical solutions, working with hand tools, powered tools and heavy machinery equipment, excessive vibration of hands, arms or body from powered tools or equipment, extension of work days, stress or shifts hours, and during night working in low light or very low poor visibility. These are all the general health and safety issues that a worker in the site will get. So which are all the safety precautions to prevent accidents? The support provided at the higher levels over which the workers move in the connection with the work should be strong and stable. It comes under scaffolding and all. For workers moving at higher levels, the support should have higher protections to prevent the workers from falling due to slipping. So no worker should be allowed to carry or lift any heavy load which can cause serious injury. Before dismantling the building, all unsafe parts should be properly protected to prevent any accidents to the workers. No unskilled person should be engaged on jobs such as operation of heavy equipment like bulldozers and cranes, etc. For workers engaged in operations such as welding, effective screens, or proper goggles should be provided to the workers for the protection of eyes. And no worker should be allowed to enter into pits or chambers or confined spaces where dangerous fumes are present. Safety training is provided for all the workers, and disciplinary actions may be taken when the above methods are not effective. Every hoist and lift and all heavy equipment and machinery should be properly maintained and thoroughly examined by the competent person before using it. For emergency work such as concreting carried in night times, lighting arrangements should be properly provided. The working hour should be followed according to the Act. Making use of personal safety devices and protective equipment like wearing helmets, safety belts, etc. So, how actually the health and safety measured in construction? First one is site layout and planning. A badly planned site is the underlying cause of many accidents. So, this is the results from falls of material and collision between workers and plant or equipment. Space constraints, particularly in urban sites, are always the biggest limiting factors. That is space constraints. Proper planning by management is an essential part of a preparation and budgeting for the safe and efficient running of a construction operation. There are many accidents due to tripping, slipping, falling over materials and equipment which have been left lying around, and stepping on nails which have been left projecting from the timbers. So site layout and planning, and personal protecting equipment, that is PPE, which are the different personal protecting equipment has to be implemented in the construction sites. It refers to protective clothing, helmets, goggles, and other garments or equipment designed to protect the wearer's body from injury by blunt impacts, electrical hazards, heat, chemical infections, etc. So the required PPEs, general requirement for the PPEs for the construction workers are head protection, that is safety helmets, foot protection, that is safety footwear or gumboots, wearing appeals, high visibility clothing, waistcoat, jacket, aprons, etc. Personal fall protection, that is rope grip, fall arrestor, and eye and face protection, goggles, welder's glasses, and hand protection by gloves, finger coats, etc. Next, respiratory protections like nose masks and ear muffs, etc. Third one is first aid kits and accident reporting. That is, first aid and rescue equipment should always be available in the construction site. On large sites with more than 200 people are employed, there should be a proper equipped first aid room. On any construction site of that size, at least one person on every shift should have been trained in first aid to a nationally recognized standard. On day-to-day works, an accident register book should be kept at the site to record the accidents occurred in details. So fourth one is health and safety warning signs. So it's nothing but signboards which has to be included in the construction sites. Safety signs and signals are one of the main means of communicating health and safety information. This includes the use of illuminated signs, hand and acoustic signals, spoken communication, and the marking of pipework containing dangerous substances. Traditional signboards such as prohibitions and warning signs, fire exit signs, fire action plan notices, firefighting equipment, etc. are to be used in the site. Signboards must be large and clear so that can be easily seen and understood. So it is necessary to maintain a proper distance from one signboard to another just to avoid the confusions. Next, safety policy. Site managers should have a written safety policy for their enterprise, setting out of the safety and health standards which is their objective to achieve. The policy should name the senior executive who is responsible for seeing that the standards are achieved and who has authority to allocate responsibilities to management and supervisors at all levels and to see that they are carried out. So safety policies has to be maintained. Sixth one is health and safety training in construction sites. With regard to occupational safety and health, Training consists of instruction in hazard recognition and its control measures, learning safe work practices and proper use of personal protective equipment, and acquiring knowledge of emergency procedures and preventive actions. Training also provides workers with ways to obtain added information about potential hazards and their control. They could gain skills to assume a more active role in implementing hazard control programs or to affect organizational changes that would enhance worksite protection. So adoption of safety measures for different construction activities. So some of the different construction activities are listed, and what are the different precautions to be taken for the safety and health purpose of the worker in the construction site. So first of all, we'll begin with excavation. In all works, an experienced and competent foreman or supervisor should look after the excavation work. He should have authority to enforce safety rules and prevent the use of defective or unsafe appliances. So before doing the excavation work, a complete knowledge of underground structure should be essential. Safety helmets should be worn by the persons entering a trench where hazards from falling stones, timbers or other material exist. Whenever workmen have to excavate in trenches in soil, that is soft or fissured rock or hard soil exceeding 2 meter depth, the trenches should be properly shored and timbered. So sheathing would be placed against the side of the trench so that the length of each piece of sheeting is vertical. And excavated material should be kept away from the edge of the trench in order to provide a clear berm width not less than one-third the final depth of the excavation. However, in special cases where disposal area is limited, the minimum berm width should not be less than 1 meter. So what are the different precautions has to be taken during drilling and blasting? So detonators and other explosives for blasting shall be transported to the site of the work in the original containers or in securely locked separate non-metallic container and shall not be carried loose or mixed with the other materials. Care should be taken in loading and unloading of explosives. The sealed containers shall not be handled roughly or dropped. So explosives shall be stored only in magazines which is clean, dry, well ventilated, reasonably cool, correctly located, protected against lightning. Any package containing explosives shall not be dragged, dropped or handled roughly. The packages shall be opened at a safe distance itself. And smoking shall not be permitted, it is completely prohibited, nor matches, open lights, fire, flame or any other devices capable of producing sparks or flames shall be strictly prohibited while handling or using explosives. Blasting should be carried out only with the permission of engineer in charge. The blasting operations shall be remain in the charge of competent and experienced supervisors and workmen who are thoroughly acquainted with the details of handling explosives and blasting operations. All the materials, tools and equipments used for blasting operation must be of approved type itself. No drilling shall be started until previous holes in the blasted area are flushed with air and filters. And the blaster shall be in good physical condition and not be under influence of drugs or alcohols, intoxicants, etc. While planning drilling operations for the blasting purposes, considerations must be given to the nature of the stratum and the overburden with a view to avoid the possibilities of landslides during the blasting. The face of the rock shall be carefully examined before drilling to determine the possible presence of unfired explosives. And the position of all holes to be drilled shall be marked out with white paint itself. The boreholes shall be carefully checked for length, presence of water, dust, etc. And surplus explosives shall not be stacked near working areas during the loading. Loading and drilling shall not be carried out at the same time in the same area. So metallic devices of any kind shall not be used. And no loose material such as tools, drilling implements shall be left on the rock surfaces to be blasted. So the blaster shall not return to the blasting site after firing until at least 5 minutes have elapsed. In case of electric shot firing, the shots holes shall be examined after blasting, and in case of misfire, no person shall be allowed to approach the blasting site for at least 5 minutes gap. So which are all the other precautions to be carried during hot bituminous works? All necessary precautions must be taken to avoid firing. Those working with bitumen and boilers must be trained in the action to take in the event of fire and in first aid treatment and procedure for dealing with bitumen burns. Care should be taken while using and storing materials used for ignition purpose, that is matches and lighters, etc. Keep the hot work area clean, tidy and free from any combustible materials. Bitumen is heated only to the temperature required for the particular application. Hot bitumen should not be come in contact with water, and excessive moisture should not present in the aggregates as it may lead to frothing. In case of frothing, addition of some hygroscopic material or anti-frothing agent may be required. So suitable protective clothing, goggles, boots and gloves are supplied to and used by operators when handling hot bitumen. So dust is suppressed and reduced to a minimum quantity, and bitumen products and solvents are not split on the ground or into the ditches or into the water courses, and wastes overheat or overheated bitumen or solvents are not disposed of by burning itself. Because of highly flammable nature of the solvent, great care is required when using rapid curing cutback bitumen. Next comes scaffolding, ladders and formwork and other equipment, which are all the different precautions to be taken. So every scaffold should be securely supported or suspended and properly braced to ensure stability. All scaffolds and working platforms should be securely fastened to the building or structure. So if independent of a building, they should be braced properly. If scaffolds are to be used to a great extent for long periods of time, a regular plank stairway wide enough to allow two people to pass should be erected with handrails on both the sides. When work is being performed above a scaffold platform, a protective overhand covering should be provided for the men working on the scaffolds. All scaffolds should be erected and dismantled by the workmen who are thoroughly experienced in the erection and dismantling of the scaffolding. And all scaffolds should be inspected by competent personality at least every 3 days after erection, and the results of inspection should be recorded. Tags must be fitted to all the scaffolds to show whether they are safe for use or not. And all scaffolds should be constructed of sound materials free from patent defects. And all working platforms shall be fully boarded. Ladders employed in heavier trades should not be exceed 6 meter in length. So care should be taken to see that no uninsulated electric wires exist within 3 meters. All operators and supervisors of machines should be thoroughly trained operation the machines and equipment, trained in operations of machines and equipments. And ropes, guys, gullies and connections should be thoroughly checked before the usage. And fabrications and erection, all equipment such as gas cutting, weld sets, drills, power axes and grinders should be checked periodically to ensure their safe working. And moving parts of all equipment should be provided with safeguards. Rubber pipelines for oxygen and acetylite gas should be regularly checked. Next, workers engaged in gas cutting and welding operations must wear suitably gloves and aprons and use proper welding screens. Power cables for all equipment should be properly insulated and protected from damage and cuts. Danger signs should be prominently displayed on all poles of overhead electric lines used at site. And cut pieces and scrap should be stored at an appropriate place to avoid accidents. And all lifting tools and tackles such as wire ropes, U-clamps, shackles, chain pulleys, hooks, etc. should be checked thoroughly before the use itself. All erection equipment such as cranes, derricks, hoists, etc. should be thoroughly checked before the use. And worker engaged in erection work should wear helmets and use safety belts to avoid accidents. And what are the different prevention to be taken during the storage of the materials? Like construction materials should be stored in such a manner as to prevent deterioration, mixing up with the foreign matter and to ensure preservation of their quality. And when you store the cement should be stored in a damp proof course or place. The stock should not be more than 10 bags high and at least 30 centimeters away from the work sites. Bricks shall not be dumped at the site. They should be stacked on level ground to minimize breakage. Height of stacks should be limited to 1.5 meters. And timbers including sleepers, runners, scantling, bellies, plywood, etc. should stored separately in neat stacks. And petroleum products should be separately stored. Smoking and open fires should be strictly prohibited when these products are stored. And explosives must be stored in proper magazines, and the prescribed safety measures for handling and storing of the explosives should be observed. And steel reinforcement bars should be stacked section wise. Next comes demolition. On every demolition work, danger signs should be provided all around the structure and doors giving access to the structure. During night time, light should be placed around the barricades and entry of unauthorized persons are completely restricted. And at the time of demolition work, workers should use all safety appliances such as helmets, goggles, gloves, etc. In case of danger is anticipated to the adjoining structures during the process of demolition, the same should be got vacated to avoid any danger to human life. The process of demolition may weaken the side walls of an adjoining structure, and to prevent possibly damage, these walls should be supported until permanent protection is provided. The power on all electrical services lines must be shut off and all such lines disconnected before the demolition of work started. All gas, water, steam and other service lines must be shut off before the demolition work is started. If a structure is to be demolished has been partly wrecked by fire, explosion or walls and damaged roofs should be braced suitably before going for demolition. No demolition work should be carried out at night, especially when the structure to be demolished in an inhabited area. Next, handling of building materials. So when moving materials manually, workers should attach handles or holders to loads. In addition, workers should always wear appropriate personal protective equipment and use proper lifting techniques. To prevent injury from oversized load, workers should seek help in the following. That is, when a load is so bulky that employees cannot properly grasp or lift it. When employees cannot see around or over a load. When employees cannot safely handle a load. Using the following personal protective equipment prevents needless injuries when manually moving materials. That is, the hand and foreman protection such as gloves for loads with sharp or rough edges and eye protection, steel-toed safety shoes or boots, metal, fiber or plastic material guards to protect the instep area from impact or compression. Next, what is safety campaign now? With the increase in the number of accidents in the construction industry, it has become essential to educate people in regard to safety measures. It is the duty of management to provide a safe working environment to workers at construction sites. Unsafe practices must not be tolerated at any cost, and proper safeguards must be provided at all the times. One way of making people aware of safety measures is to launch safety campaigns in addition to providing preventive measures at site for work. Frequent exchange of ideas between the labor and the management would help in minimizing the accident rates. A continuing education program using posters, booklets, films, lectures, and discussions with the emphasis on supervisory safety training will prove effective in reducing the accident rate. Accident results in loss of life and property and reputation of the construction agency, apart from financial loss and litigation. So accidents adversely affect the progress of work and have demoralizing effect on the construction team. Safety play an important role in executing a construction project with speed, economy, and efficiency. So next, which are all the different acts that focuses on safety? purposes. So safety through legislation. In construction industry, the legislation is needed for improving the working condition, determining the terms of the employment, providing social security, that is the compensation, regulating the relationship between employees and employers, and safeguarding the lives of workmen for the welfare of workers. So some of the important acts like Payment Wages Act, Minimum Wages Act, Workmen Compensation Act, Industrial Dispute Act, Indian Trade Union Act, Factories Acts, all are belongs to the safety purposes that has to be followed in the construction site for the betterment of workers. So we'll go for Workmen Compensation Act. This act covers all the persons employed in construction, maintenance, repairs or demolition of any building, dams, roads, bridges, tunnel works, plastering operations, etc. The salient features are: the act defines partial and total disablement and fatal accidents while on duty. It sets schedule of compensation to be paid for various injuries. The act protects workers against injuries arising out of and in the course of employment, but no compensation is payable in respect of injury which is not result in partial or total disability and non-fatal injury caused by the worker under the influence of alcohol. The Act identifies important occupational diseases. The Act decides the quantum of loss of earning capacity in terms of percentage in the event of injury. The Act describes the rate of compensation to be paid by employer to the injured or deceased person in proportion to the quantum of injury. The Act provides the appointment of Commission for Workmen's Compensation, whose functions are settlement of disputed claims, and disposal of claims in case of fatal cases, revision of periodical payments, and it is liable on the employer to pay compensation to workers as per provisions of the Act, failing which he will be punishable under the law. Next, Indian Factories Act, it is on 1948. The Factories Act 1948 contains provisions in respect to health of workers, safety, welfare of labor, working hours, leave with wages concerning the workers employed in factories. In this act, it is defined as the boundaries where 10 or more workers are engaged for over 12 months in the manufacture of a product with the use of power. This factor does not hold good for civil construction unless a rule is made making the Factories Act applicable to the construction industry. And third one is the Indian Trade Union Act in 1926. Trade union means any association of persons temporarily or permanently formed primarily for the purpose of regulating the relations between workmen and employers, or between workmen and workmen, or between employees and employers, or for imposing restrictive conditions on the conduct of any trade or business. The minimum membership for registered trade union is 7, and these are some important trade unions in India, like All India Trade Union Congress, Indian National Trade Union Congress, Hind Mazdoor Sabha, United Trade Union Congress, Center of Indian Trade Union, and Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangha. And which are all the following objectives of the trade union? The wage formula for workers should be based on the cost of living and the prevailing standards of living in India, limited working hours, leave facilities, education and other welfare facilities, to ensure that the workers get adequate bonus, to defend individual workers from improper treatment, to ensure the workers' security of employment and justice when punishment is imposed. Thank you.